on YouTube at Spartan Defense Armory and at the Second Syndicate YouTube. We have a special co-host today. We have my friend Nick Rogers of Big Timber Lodge. He is a great friend and he is an ally of the Second Syndicate. Teddy is out and about doing the things Teddy does. So I said I have to have a good co-host. So we have had Big Timber on the show before and we always love to have him back. So welcome, Big Timber.
Appreciate it.
We are going to be discussing the new Senate Bill 25003 when it comes to gun control in Colorado that Governor Jared Polis has signed. I can't stand the dude. I'm not going to lie about that. But hey, let's talk about it. We're also going to talk about a lot of gun control that is happening here in the state of Colorado. We have a very, very hard to reach guy because he's very busy fighting for your rights and doing his job. We have Sheriff Joseph Roybal of El Paso County. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us today. I know that kind of, having you set aside an hour to come on a show is asking a lot. So it's a huge honor to have you here and to welcome you to the Second Syndicate. So just give us a little bit of a brief introduction about who you are and what you stand for, and we'll just start diving into some topics.
Thank you. I'm honored that you asked me to come on and speak about this very important topic. I'm very vocal. Just briefly about me, I'm the 29th Sheriff of El Paso County, the first Latino elected here in El Paso County to office of sheriff. I recently had a meeting, a little off topic, with Hispanic Pastors Association, Latino pastors. I forget exactly the name. Talk about immigration. Once I told them the importance of law enforcement and specifically the sheriff's role in working with ICE, I alleviated all their concerns, and they are supporting me 100% on that front as well. But we're here today to talk about guns. I'm a native of Colorado Springs. This is my home here in El Paso County, so I'm honored to serve as the sheriff, but I'm more honored and privileged, feel privileged to protect our rights here that I grew up with my entire life, hunting with my dad and my family, shooting sports. It's an honor to be I hate to say it, it almost feels like the last defense against what our own state here is trying to do, let alone the federal government. So I'm hoping we get some relief from our federal partners alongside us in fighting here what I think is the state is absurd in trying to remove and eliminate firearms from our state.
And I just want to say one thing really quick for our viewers that might not be in Colorado. El Paso County, I believe, is the largest county when it comes to being a sheriff. Correct me if I'm wrong. In the state of Colorado, it's south of Denver County. It's where Colorado Springs is, Manitou Springs, and it's a very large landmass. So you have a lot of jurisdiction over a lot of Colorado. Am I correct, sir?
You are correct as far as the largest county when it comes to population. There are a couple of counties that are just slightly larger in landmass, but population, we are the largest county in the state of Colorado.
Wow.
That's really cool. And if I'm not mistaken, we have the largest military presence in Colorado as well in this county, as well as the largest amount of concealed carry permit holders.
Absolutely.
Yeah, buddy.
So I mean, we're on YouTube, which hates the 2A, so we're actively shadow banned. So everybody out there, really, really support us in going to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, sign up for notifications. Also head over to Big Timber Lodge and subscribe to him, because we here at the Second Syndicate believe in collaboration, not competition. We love to see more people getting involved in promoting the Second Amendment and speaking out against tyranny. Our friend Nick here, he does a great job of doing that. So if you're following us, support him. He supports us. We work together. We share information. We want to reach as many people as we possibly can. So if you don't resonate with us, maybe you resonate with Big T. Maybe if you don't resonate with Big T, maybe you like a wild and crazy little Latina crazy broad like me. So come on down and get involved with the Second Amendment, because if you're not involved in politics, politics is involved in you.
Yes.
And they're making decisions based on your life and your family's life and your liberties without you even knowing it a lot of the time. And that's one of the things that I wanted to get into with you. We'll just start jumping in on some stuff. The biggest conversation this year that we've had is Senate Bill 25003. It's on everybody's tongue. It's making national news. But what a lot of people aren't realizing is that that's one of a significant amount of bills that are just in the legislature this year. We have, I believe, 25 bills that are being litigated just in 2025 that say the word firearm. So if you don't think that that's crazy people, that is absolutely asinine, that they are trying to take away our constitutional right to self-defense, our human right to self-defense. And Colorado is in the top 3 in the nation for violent crime right now. We are in the top 6 for rape. We are number 1 for auto theft and car break-ins. We are 47th in the nation for mental health resources. Colorado is suffering, and we are experiencing the reason the Second Amendment was written. We are experiencing tyranny firsthand. It is happening every day at the Gold Dome. And the reason we wanted the sheriff on the channel today is because we want to break a lot of these narratives that are street information. We have, we want to say that we have bad actors, of course, in the Capitol, but we also have some in the community of people that, there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of street knowledge of people don't know their laws. They don't know their rights. They hear certain things about guns. They think suppressors are illegal. They think, the sheriff's department and cops are there to be the extension of tyranny. And sometimes you do get a bad cop. Sometimes you do get bad law enforcement, but not everybody is a bad guy. And I grew up with law enforcement in my family. And one thing I want to say is how impressed that I have been from Sheriff Roybal, because I have testified in pretty much almost every gun control bill in the past 5 years that I can. I've missed a couple this year just with us establishing the show in the Second Syndicate, but I see you down at the Gold Dome all the time, and I see you standing, shoulder to shoulder with other sheriffs. I see you on the same panels as, one of our other co-founders, Teddy, and testifying in support of the Second Amendment. So I really want to say thank you to you, Sheriff Roybal, for being that person that's willing to push back and to actually be a representative of the people. It's very refreshing. Let's talk about your experience with Senate Bill 25003. I have a whole list of stuff that we wanted to talk about. So first of all, what a lot of people don't know is concealed carry laws are changing in the state of Colorado because of last year, 2024. They passed new concealed carry requirements that are effective July 1st, 2024. And I'm also a firearms educator and instructor in the state of Colorado. And what's going on is there are so many people that are booking appointments with different counties to get their concealed carry that appointments are being pushed back already past July 1st. Which means a lot of the students now, they can't take the old requirements. They have to take the new requirements because they can't even get an appointment until July 1st or beyond. So now we as instructors have to start teaching that class early because we have to obviously protect our students. And I want to make a very, very blatant statement that we as the Second Syndicate do not believe in asking permission to exercise our constitutional rights. We believe that asking permission for concealed carry is an infringement on our right. And I'm sure that you agree with me on this, and I'm sure you do as well, that despite the fact that we have these ugly, ugly laws, we still need to stay armed as people. We still need to continue to fight, but we need to stay armed. Now, as your experience as Sheriff Roybal, what do you see is a lot of constraints and delays for El Paso County for the new CHP process, and what is your department and you doing to be proactive in helping the people to stay armed and process this demand?
So as it relates to the Senate Bill 3, which doesn't go into effect till July 1st, but of course, here in El Paso County, we have such large demand, over 55,000 concealed handgun carriers in El Paso County. And I like to boast that number to remind people, if you're going to commit a crime, go to Denver. Those citizens aren't armed. You come to El Paso County, you never know what you're going to come across. It could be one of the 55,000. A little bit of cautionary note there for anybody who wants to come to El Paso County to commit a crime. What the legislature's doing is they're trying to make it ultra inconvenient.
Yeah.
And that's their hope. What this does, go into the range, and I'm all for safe gun handling. Everybody who is a proponent of Second Amendment, we all do. We're the ones out there. We have big safes. I won't tell you how many safes I have. I surely won't tell you what's in my safe, right?
Yep.
I go shooting local ranges. My kids go shooting. My wife goes shooting. That's how I grew up. And the people who carry the weapons, we are proficient. We are safe. We don't need laws to say, hey, keep your guns in the safe. I'm going to keep weapons where I can keep my family safe from intruders if they come in, and I'll just leave it at that. But we are safe. The tragedies that we've seen around the nation, the reasons that our legislature are using, we need to stop these mass murders, these mass killings, these mass shootings. Well, they're mass killings. Not always done with firearms, but they use any reason, any example. They use Club Q. That's a big hot topic here in El Paso County, specifically Colorado Springs. And I'll talk about that a little later because it involves my office. I'm down here in Colorado Springs. What they're trying to do is make it convenient. And I think it's going to work. That's my biggest fear. My biggest fear is not that they're passing these laws, but the laws are going to work. The laws are going to discourage enough people that they're no longer going to exercise their Second Amendment right. That's my fear. That's their goal. And my message today above everything else, please do not let the legislatures here in Colorado, these hideous laws, these unconstitutional laws, prevent you from exercising your Second Amendment rights. That's what they're trying to do. And only we can let them be successful. They'll succeed at passing the laws because a certain political party here in Colorado controls everything. They control every branch, the House, the representatives, the Senate, the AG's office, the governor's office. They control everything. So yes, they're going to pass these bills. So let's look beyond that. Okay, if they pass the bill, and that's my role as sheriff. Some people say, well, sheriff, don't follow that law. You go against it. Well, I can't, because if I do, then my citizens will not be able to purchase a firearm because I don't approve the sale of a firearm. You all do in your shops, right? They go through a test, a background check. The state has some stake in that, the federal government. We don't say who can purchase firearms in that background check. What I have to do as the sheriff is to ensure that my citizens have a process that is convenient as possible as I can make it. The instructors here in El Paso County and the advocates for Second Amendment, you're going to make it as convenient as possible, but you have to follow the law as well, because if you don't, then your license is pulled and they win. So I am looking at how many staff I need to schedule the appointments, trying to anticipate gun sales. We're doing studies now on how many firearms are sold here in the state of Colorado. And guess what? We have reached roadblocks trying to find that information. The state has that information. Hey, how many firearms are sold here in El Paso County? Well, we're having trouble finding it. Of course you are. I'm trying to anticipate how many firearms are sold so I can get enough staff. I'll have to go to the county commissioners and ask for more funding because I don't have the budget. I didn't anticipate that this unfunded mandate is going to be shoved down my throat. Now, don't get me wrong. I am glad it's with the sheriffs, the individual sheriffs, and not the state of Colorado. In one version of this bill, the sheriffs weren't going to do the background check. A state agency, and I'll leave it at that, a state agency was going to do the background check and provide the permit. This is how absurd it is for people outside of Colorado, and maybe you haven't followed it, a permit to go and take a safety course. What class do you know anywhere where you have to get a permit to go take a class?
Right.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, that state agency, I'm not confident that state agency would have made it convenient for our consumers. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty confident they would have made it so inconvenient people would throw their hands up and say, nope, I'm not doing it. But here's what's scary. Just yesterday, I'm at an event and one of my constituents comes up and said, hey, Sheriff, I tried to renew my CHP, but I concealed handgun, but I can't do it until later in the year, so I have to take the class. And I just don't have the time. I don't want to go do it. Now, it took me 1 minute with her, and I said, you absolutely are going to renew your concealed carry permit. Here's why. Because if you don't, they win. That's their goal. Yes, the class is going to be inconvenient. We have a list of instructors on the website. Go to that list. All of those people on there are going to make it as convenient as possible while still following the law. Because if we don't adhere to the law, then guess what? The state's going to come in, shut you down. That's one less resource that Second Amendment advocates have. They're going to come in and check me. So that's why I will follow the law. as written, to ensure that the Second Amendment and access to firearms to my constituents here in El Paso County is as convenient as possible and legal, because the last thing I want to do is turn my citizens into criminals, which this law can easily do. It is absurd.
And that's the design, right? Is to make it so unattainable that people are discouraged. So they know we're going to be rebellious and we're not going to want to do it. But that's the way that they make people disarmed, and that's another agenda of disarming people, is making it so obtuse and so unattainable that people just don't do it anymore. And I really want to explore this topic a little bit more. We're going to take a little break here from an ad for one of our sponsors. We have an ad for My Pillow. We're going to have that go on here in a second, and stay tuned and stick with us.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
All right, we are back. Thank you so much from our sponsors for supporting us. It means a lot to us that we have people out there that are helping get this message out there. I know that Big Timber has some questions that he wanted to ask you, Sheriff.
Yeah, Sheriff, you have been great in my tenure of living in Colorado Springs, but I have questions as if I'm a Coloradan that lives in, let's say, a less than friendly county when it comes to the Second Amendment. And in SB 03, there's a may issue discretionary measure put in there for the sheriff of your county to be able to investigate you beyond whether or not you're a criminal, but it's up to the sheriff to decide if they feel that you're a potential threat to yourself or to the community if you're allowed to purchase firearms. How do you advise somebody that lives in one of those counties where the sheriffs might have a bad day or just feel, I don't want the people that live in my area to be able to own firearms, so I'm not going to be able to issue or I won't issue these Colorado identification cards? How would you advise a Coloradan to deal with that situation,
That's a great question.
Absolutely. But before I answer that question, I want to follow up on what we were talking. You made a good point when you said they're trying to disarm people. I think it goes beyond that. Here's how scary it is. Like this lady who was going to voluntarily surrender or not renew her CHP. I say surrender it. Mm-hmm. They are getting people, and it will happen. There are going to be tragic cases where people disarm themselves because they don't want to jump through the hoops. And that is a true tragedy. To answer your question, there will be sheriffs who make it less convenient. Here in El Paso County, I've gone on record and say, I will make it as convenient as possible. Now, I know this opens up El Paso County. There's a few other counties, but I can't speak for those sheriffs. They need to speak for themselves. You mentioned somebody who was on last night. While following the law, and this is important because I don't need the AG's office and CBI coming on behalf of the governor to investigate, while being compliant with the law, just like I do with immigration, I will make it as convenient as possible for any citizen in the state of Colorado. You don't need to get the permit from your county of residence. You just need the permit that you've gone through the process. The sheriff has done this background check and issue a permit for them to go and take the class. Because to purchase a firearm, the state is then going to verify that you've taken the class and in fact you've done it after receiving that card, which again, it's absurd, permission to take this class from a sheriff. I will open it up, and I know that's going to open the floodgates to me, but we will follow the law. If you're experiencing some hardship where you are, I welcome you to come to El Paso County and you will legally be able to attend the class. And then hopefully after that, be able to legally purchase firearms without surrendering your firearms of your own free will. That's what they're trying to do.
Absolutely.
And one of my concerns is someone like myself. I'm notoriously that bad girl of the two-way that is breaking all the rules, right? I'm suing the government against a 3-day waiting period. I'm the plaintiff in that case with RMGO. I have a two-way organization that speaks out against gun control. We actively are having shows like this talking about the importance of staying armed. I'm posting photos of me and training and all these things on the internet. In the county that I reside in, not just the county that I work in, is very, very notoriously anti-gun. And my concern is my sheriff isn't friendly to me. You know, my county isn't friendly to me. And the fact that we're allowing this May issue, they can look me up and say, oh my God, look at her. You know, she's a problem. She is promoting gun ownership. She's doing these things. I'm going to rubber stamp it and deny her from purchasing any more guns. And guns are my livelihood. So I'm concerned about my reputation and my ability to access firearms, because I very well could be targeted because of this bill, because of my stance and because of my voice. And it's making me reconsider where I live, because I want to be here with sheriffs like you. It's like, hey, you know, hey, I like her. We know that she's a good person. We know that she's educating people to stay armed. We want to continue this type of stuff, as opposed to another county that's going to say, hey, you know what? She's a problem. She's promoting gun ownership. Let's deny her the ability to purchase guns. That's terrifying.
It is.
And that is exercising bias, and that's exercising prejudice, and that's what we're empowering the government to do. And one of the things that I was thinking about earlier when I was talking to other people is that the state is actually putting sheriffs in a place of burden to basically demonize sheriffs for standing up for the 2A and the rights of the people. And by you being a sheriff who's extremely vocal and standing up for pro 2A rights, I think when they're creating more bills to, you know, be more impositive when it comes to gun ownership, they're wanting to take away the responsibility and the power of the sheriff to protect the communities, because they're saying, no, we do have sheriffs like Sheriff Roybal and these other sheriffs that are pro 2A, and we don't want them doing what they're doing. So how can we usurp their positions and delegate them out to people that we can now control?
Good question.
You know, that's
Exactly.
a big deal to me. So, like, right now, the CB has stated that the FFLs can't do fingerprints. Only the sheriff could do that. And when we're talking about the new concealed carry permitting, we, and I know Spartan Defense did this, we said, hey, you know what? We're an FFL. We have the ability and the requirements per federal law to fingerprint people and photograph people for, you know, NFA items and things of that nature. We have the equipment. We have the ability to do this, and it's already deemed perfect by the federal government. It's in alignment with the ATF regulations. How can we help counties expedite these permits? Can we have them come to us when they're purchasing these firearms and fingerprint them and do those things there? And they have actually come back and said no. The Colorado, who said no? I forget the name of the company. It was a CBI that they said, no, we want to control that. We want to be the ones that have the sole permissions to do that fingerprinting, which puts an undue burden on your department, because now you're going to have to level up your employees to be able to accommodate this backlog of people that need to be fingerprinted and IDs. So from what I was hearing is that you have actually taken upon yourself, upon your allotment of funds, not asking for more funds for the state, but in your budget to hire more people to accommodate those fingerprints. Is that not correct?
So that's what we're going to do next year. Right now, we're guessing about 3. It's just a guess. That's why I'm trying to determine how many firearms are sold here in El Paso County. That doesn't mean that's going to happen next year, but it gives a ballpark figure. When we were trying to meet the demand here in El Paso County for, as you can imagine, everybody's trying to, within a 6-month window, which is legal, renew their CHP before the July 1st change in our law. I had 3 people come in and help with CHP to meet that burden. And I'm out of space. I have no more space down there. I don't have fingerprint readers are very expensive. I didn't have a spare. I was using everything we had. We still couldn't keep up the demand. And then we hit that threshold where we're scheduling beyond July 1st. And then naturally, the appointments start slowing down because they just can't get in, trying to not avoid, but get in under the wire before they have to take that class and the new demands of that law. Looking to next year, what we're doing. Fortunately, we do have a year. We do have some time. I have a team. We're meeting right now once a month, trying to figure out, okay, exactly how do we meet these needs. Our current plant space, if you will, a concealed handgun program. For me, it's going to be in conjunction with concealed handgun program. It just makes sense to live in that shop, if you will. What space? Okay, where can we allocate some new space for what we believe is going to be a minimum of an additional fingerprint reader, maybe 2, 3 more personnel. That's just to meet the need that we're anticipating to take this safety course to purchase firearms. That's not even talking about concealed handgun program, CHPs. Having 55,000 here in the state of Colorado, here in El Paso County, being the number 1 for those. I'm curious to see those numbers over the next year. I'll report on those. Hopefully they do not go down. The message is please, please, please continue to get your concealed carry. I, for one, am a constitutional carry. I believe everybody has the right to carry a firearm. Where I live, not within the city of Colorado Springs, I see it pretty regularly, people carrying a firearm. It does not intimidate me.
Right.
Here's the mess. Here's what legislature is doing.
It actually makes me happier when I know that people are strapped, because it's like, yes.
Absolutely.
It's not the person who's carrying it on their side. It's the person that's carrying it concealed that you have to worry about.
Yep.
Concealed illegally.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the citizens and them disarming themselves. That number, 55,000, is in jeopardy. And please, citizens, continue to bring those. I will make it as convenient as possible. I'll report on that. You would share, say, hey, Sheriff, where are we at 6 months from now? I will report those numbers to the media. It's important. I'm a very vocal sheriff. I blast media. If you don't follow me, hey, here's a time for me to plug my office, epcsheriffsoffice.com, EPC Sheriff's Office for Facebook. We put all our media releases on Facebook. In those media releases, we put out the names of the legislatures. We put their contact information to encourage citizens to reach out to them. Will they listen to their messages? Probably not. There are times when I go up and testify, they'll get up and walk out, whether it's immigration, whether it's making drug felonies harsher, now they're misdemeanors. Colorado it's not a surprise that we're climbing up the charts as far as being unsafe. We're releasing our criminals from prison. When just last week, I had a case where a deputy did some great work and rearrested somebody on drug charges and stolen vehicle charges. Guess what? That person was on parole. So please follow us on Facebook. Go to my website. You're going to see I'm the sheriff that puts the information out there. I call the legislature out. Hey, when I'm accountable to the people. How come the legislature's not? Reach out to them. Help me. I am one voice. I have gun shop owners who've gone with me to the Capitol to testify side by side. You all have been there. It's a core group of people. They don't care because they know they got the numbers. That political party has the numbers to pass anything they want.
I've got a question for you really quick, sir. It's from a viewer with the Big Timber Lodge who lives in a unfriendly 2A county in Colorado, up in Boulder County, right? They just want to get clarification on if they could actually come down to El Paso County to get their training and get their firearms owner identification card if they live in a separate county.
That is our understanding of the law. I'll have my legislative liaison review that right now, that we believe we can.
Awesome.
We'll verify that. I've said so because that's my belief, and hopefully I'm not wrong. But if I am, I'm big enough to say, hey, I was wrong. You can't come. But hopefully we have the answer. I think she's looking it up right now. So give us a couple minutes.
Right.
Shout out to her,
Well,
man. She's awesome.
I think that's if it's correct, that will help alleviate a lot of the burdens on the pro 2A patriots here in Colorado, because a lot of the counties that are anti 2A have some of the highest numbers in them.
Yeah.
Right up around the Denver area. And then if all of that area is being denied by their local sheriff, then it will be a blessing to be able to come into El Paso County and deal with your office that will make it as convenient for them, as long as they're not a criminal. I mean, as long as federally they can own a firearm, they should be able to purchase a firearm. It's crazy to me that the state is looking at more stringent restrictions for purchasing a firearm than to get a conceal and carry license.
Indeed. And it's denying people the ability to, those who need it the most, the marginalized communities, the people that are in the highest crime neighborhoods, that are the most poverty stricken, who are in the highest and most urgent danger. Not only are now they going to have to get the concealed carry handgun permit and pay for that, they're going to have to get the COID card, which right now I don't even think we understand what the cost of that is. If you want to chime in on that, Sheriff, we'd love to know that. And then after that, wait 3 days. And I'm the plaintiff in the Garcia versus Polis case for the 3-day waiting period. But that's been going on since 2023, and we're barely just inching. I mean, the legislative process is very, very, very slow.
Well, I just got word, and it's good news for everybody out there. Right now, of course, maybe next year they clean it up. They forgot this loophole. Yes, you can come to El Paso County no matter where you live. And again, get a check.
Virtual
to get
high five. Yeah.
But does that help you? Does that
Yeah.
help because it would bring that revenue to El Paso County, and it would be able to help bring more probably freedom to here too, because if you have a sheriff who is actively fighting for the 2A rights, it indirectly becomes a sanctuary location for that, because you know that you're going to have a sheriff who's not going to be biased or exercise a discretion based on, you know, hey, I don't like this person, or, you know, like my concern, you know, I got a Latino sheriff here. When people see my name and they're like, oh, your name is Alicia Garcia, you must be an immigrant, you must be a maid, you must, you know, be on state money, and we don't like you, and boom, we don't want a little brown girl walking around strapped. I worry about those things because there are people that are very biased to demographics of people, and I'm very all about, you know, the Constitution.
Right.
Everybody deserves a right to fight. Everybody deserves a right to stay alive.
Yeah, I mean, I came from California. I'm not a Californian. I was stationed in California. I want to clear that with everybody. I'm a Coloradan. Okay. I was stationed in California for 5 years before they brought me back to Colorado, where I served up in NORAD. And when I lived in California, this was back during the May issue permit time frame in the United States. And it was crazy because around the state of California, depending on the county that you were in, and the sheriff there was your county sheriff, would dictate whether or not you could actually get a conceal and carry license in that state. And it got to the point where, like Santa Barbara County, where I lived, the sheriff was so against conceal and carry licenses that if you got your conceal and carry license in, let's say, Bakersfield, California, where that sheriff was very pro 2A, as long as you're not a felon, as long as you're not a domestic violent, you can get your conceal and carry license. If they caught you in Santa Barbara County, they would charge you with a federal or a county level felony for having a conceal and carry that you were issued in that state. And that's what I was afraid of was going to happen here in the state of Colorado, where people that get their conceal and carry licenses, or they're able to get their COID card here in El Paso County, but they can't get it in a place like Denver County. That's what I was afraid of. So I'm so happy you brought that information to us. Thank you so much, sir. I can have a nice night tonight with that information.
So I do want to say something very important, just to kind of big up the sheriff here, that I think there's miscommunication. People are like, well, sheriff, just be resistant, you know, don't comply, don't offer the COID card, be that. Well, by doing that, I don't think people understand that you have to offer this to the COID card, because people need to access firearms, and people need to be able to stay strapped. And if you don't do that, and we want to be resistant, then what it's going to do is it's only going to disarm the people. Do we want to follow these laws? Hell no, we don't. We don't want to be doing any of these things. But what's more important right now? How can we fight this? And let's talk about what we can do to fight this. What's going to help support sheriffs like Sheriff Roybal to accommodate keeping people armed, but also to reach out for more help when it comes to the U.S. Attorney in Colorado once we get that seat appointed by Trump. So we're going to go, we're going to have another word from one of our sponsors. We have LUTF Studio that's going to give us an ad here real quick. And as soon as we're back from a word from our sponsor, we'll dive into that.
Wolverines.
Well, hello everybody, it's Andy Cyrus. Welcome to my art studio where all the magic happens. This is the station for painting, and that is the station for all the resin art I do. If you want to check out my art, all you gotta do is go to lutfstudio.com. But I'm sure, for at least I hope, I'll see you at lutfstudio.com.
Sponsor showing us some love and helping support us. Shout out to Ex America News for having our show and spotlighting not only our show, The Second Syndicate, but also the Big Timber Launch. He is our brother in the two-way on Ex America News, and we have come together to unite on that platform to bring more freedom and more less censored content to the people of America.
Right.
Because media right now, especially in a lot of Colorado-run media areas, are hindering the voice of the two-way. They are not putting out the information that these bills are being even discussed in the Capitol. They're just, you know, look over here at the unicorns and rainbows and all of this other stuff. You know, watch your favorite show, go buy ice cream like Joe Biden, and forget that you have rights. And that's exactly what Colorado media does. So shout out to Ex America News for giving us the opportunity to reach more people, and not only on a Colorado basis, but on a national basis, so people understand what is going on here in Colorado, so we can support the narrative of arming and defending the people once again. So back to the topic that we were just discussing about the U.S. Attorney in Colorado, how that's going to work out, because right now we are in a transitional period. The U.S. Attorney of Colorado is going to be appointed here. We don't know who that is yet. Trump is going to do that, and we don't know when they will be appointed, but I'm assuming, and shout out to a good friend of ours, John Fabricatore. I know that you were very, very involved in working with ICE, which is something that has been told that you shouldn't do, that you shouldn't be working with ICE to help the feds come in and do what they need to do against all of these criminals that are here illegally. I'm Latina, Mexicana, I'm Spanish. I'm all about people coming to America legally and immigrating and coming and embracing this country. But it's another thing when people are coming in by the droves and hundreds of thousands, and they're the criminals from other states that are coming here to rob, rape, pillage, and destroy our freedoms. So thank you to you, Sheriff, for doing that and standing with ICE to help eradicate all of the things, and you have actually asked your deputies to be welcoming to that. Am I not correct in saying that?
That is correct. I'll go back to what we were talking about before we left, and I'll talk about immigration. Yes, I've had some constituents, residents of Paso County, say, "Sheriff, don't enforce this new law. It's ridiculous." I don't consider enforcing a law. I considering it helping my constituents, and out of all Colorado, we just learned, continue to exercise that right of owning firearms. And enforcing the law ensures that my residents do not become criminals just by purchasing a firearm. Because if they do, or if we have a firearms dealer, which I don't think would happen, issue or sell a firearm without that proof, what happens? They're putting their license at risk. They're putting that person at risk for purchasing the firearm. They've turned themselves into criminals, and we can't let them do that. So yes, I will follow the law to ensure my constituents continue to purchase firearms. I'm going to talk about immigration. Yes, I have worked within the confines of the current Colorado law. Now there's legislature that they're reviewing right now that will pass. That's going to further restrict law enforcement from working with ICE. ICE is the only, Immigration Customs and Enforcement, I get that out there, is the only federal agency that the state of Colorado says, Sheriff, you cannot enter a contract with, you cannot work with them. Absurd. I work with the DEA, the ATF, the FBI, you name any three acronym of the feds, I work with it. I can keep, this is how absurd, I can detain in my prison members of the armed forces, but I cannot detain somebody on an ICE, strictly an ICE hold. That's what the state of Colorado. So servicemen and women who were serving the country and maybe something happened and found themselves, on the other side of the law, I can hold them in my prison, American citizens, but I cannot in my jail, but I cannot hold undocumented illegal residents for Immigration's Customs Service.
Wow.
Now what I can do, this is the law, and I've studied that because I don't want to turn myself into a criminal, and I don't need the AG down here or CBI investigating my office. If they've committed a crime in the state of Colorado, against the person of Colorado, against the state of Colorado, and they happen to be here undocumented, I can report that to immigration, to ICE. And I've done that. What I also can do is, if they leave my jail, whether they post-bond or they finish their sentence, I can safely hand them over to ICE in the confines of my jail. For people who weren't here in Colorado or not aware, a few weeks ago, maybe like 6 weeks now, we had an altercation in Denver County where they released an undocumented immigrant.
Yep.
And when ICE went to detain him, there was an altercation and people got hurt in the parking lot. Here's my policy. I do those transfers in the confines of my jail where it's safe. Well, we know there's no weapons. They don't have any weapons on them. My deputies are around, and ICE this is for everybody, including the detainee. It's for their safety, right? The ICE agents know that their friends and family aren't around the corner going to harm them or maybe fire a weapon at them. And they leave my cell report safe and secure. It's safer for everybody. Now there's some talk that the state wants to prevent us from doing that. The current law allows me to do it, and guess what? I do it, but not all jails do. That's absurd. It makes it safer for everybody, including the immigrant themselves.
Absolutely.
Do it inside the jail.
Sure. I got to ask you a question. We talked about it a little bit before we went live, which is House Bill 251314, which kind of just showed up overnight. It took 3 days to pass through the House. It started off as an automobile industry bill and was gutted and then transformed into creating law enforcement officers, not just law enforcement officers, but post-board armed agents of the Department of Revenue targeting FFLs in Colorado. And this is in direct opposition to sheriffs and county commissioners saying, hey, our county is going to be a 2A sanctuary county. And so the state said, fine, we are going to create armed Department of Revenue officers that are post-board certified that can make arrests and overstep the jurisdiction of a sheriff's department. Because if the state finds out that Spartan Defense did something against the law, which they don't, but I'm just saying, hypothetical, the state can revoke their license to operate even without making an arrest. And if they did commit a crime, they can reach out to the local sheriff's department and say, hey, we have evidence they broke the law. We need you to intervene. But now they're looking to make law enforcement officers with Department of Revenue agents that will overstep their jurisdiction into your community. Sir, how are you going to handle this?
And before you answer that, Sheriff, I want to say thank you to Zachary, who donated $20 in the super chat. Thank you so much for that. The Second Syndicate is a 501c4, so 50% of everything you guys donate goes directly to supporting 2A advocacy. We have to do it by law, so that's why we created this organization and this chat, because we want people to know we are reinvesting into our communities to help protect and defend the 2A. So every 50 cents of every dollar that you sent goes purposely to doing that. So thank you so much, Zachary.
Right. Talking about that bill, they are. Okay, I'm trying not to. I don't want you to get in trouble with YouTube.
Okay.
Well, so I'll clear my language.
One F-bomb if you want to be the guy.
They are assaulting our Second Amendment rights at every single level they can. They're trying to get the citizens to disarm themselves voluntarily by not jumping through their ridiculous ass hoops. Now they're trying to arm an agency, a state agency, because they didn't do it with this. They allowed the sheriffs to go ahead and issue those cards, which is good. They thought they were punishing us for doing that. No. If anybody's going to issue the card, it should be the local sheriff, especially here in El Paso County, because I know we're going to follow the law and we're going to be friendly to 2A. That's why I made the offer statewide. But now another state agency to go, okay, we're going to target the people who are selling the guns. And that's along my point earlier when I said we have to be compliant so we don't turn ourselves into criminals. Here's my fear. People go out and they just start shopping, right? Shopping these gun stores. That's where we're going to testify. We're going to oppose it. But what's going to happen? That political party owns it. They control everything. They're going to pass some version of it. Maybe they'll listen to us. And we do have some voice. They do listen to some of the sheriffs sometimes. And maybe we amend it. Last year, there was another bill where CBI was going to come in the counties and investigate. We got that. We got that killed. I forget what it was. We got that amended. Let's see if we can get this amended. In the county, the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer. If there's an accusation that a crime has been committed, it is our duty as elected by the people to investigate those crimes. I do not need any state agency to come into my county unless I invite them to ask for help with investigating a crime. And that's going to be my argument to the legislature. You already have a police agency. You can't balance your budget now. Why are you going to hire more people to do a job that, hey, guess what? Somebody else is doing. If it's inside of a city limit, you have a police agency that can investigate that crime. You have a DA's office who has investigators who can investigate that crime. We don't need a state agency to come into our jurisdiction. If I feel there's a conflict, say I run for sheriff and you endorse me, but there's accusations. Maybe there's a conflict. Hey, I can ask, hey, DA, can you do this for me? Or can I have another agency do it for me? If it's in unincorporated El Paso County. There are ways to work around conflicts if that's their argument. Well, sheriff, it's an elected office. Yes, elected by the people to hold people accountable. I don't need to stay here. Just like last year when we fought against that bill with CBI to come into a local jurisdiction and investigate. We don't need them. We don't want them. I, as a sheriff, should allow people in to my county. I don't need the state overstepping and coming to my local jurisdiction in my county to investigate some accusation of wrongdoing. That says they don't trust us.
Right.
That tells me, it goes beyond that.
They're demonizing the sheriff. They want to usurp your power because they know that they can't control you.
Right.
And they're saying, hey, people of El Paso County, or hey, people of you name the county, you're not smart enough to elect the right person to office. We're smarter than you, so we have to investigate these ourselves.
Yep.
That's what they're saying. It's an insult to my constituents here in El Paso County and every county across the state of Colorado.
Well, absolutely, yeah, because the sheriff is the ultimate law enforcement authority in the county because they are elected, right?
They are representatives.
They are
of
the
people
representatives.
that wanted them there.
And everything that you've said tonight does not go against any letter of the law. You're in full compliance with everything. And this is just testimony to the fact that the state does not trust you as a law enforcement agency to actually uphold the law. And they're willing to create a separate LEO or law enforcement agency. A puppet. That who knows? I mean, I don't understand why you would have finance people that are in charge of, driver's licenses and licensing for businesses all of a sudden become armed agents to act like a sheriff's department and intervene if a crime potentially was committed.
So last year we spoke out about this. I know Teddy did as well. So just to give everybody out there a brief synopsis, and we only have about 10 minutes left, and I want to hit a couple things here, is we are also members. I'm an officer of the Colorado Federal Firearms Licensee Association. Teddy, my business partner in the second syndicate, he is the vice president of the Colorado Federal Firearms Licensee Association. Last year, when it was originated, it was because there was the permit for gun shops that came across the legislator's desk. which we knew was going to be egregious because this was a way for them to say, we want to be able to have some sort of state enforcement to prevent them from resisting. Because without that state licensing and permitting, we could have said, you know what, we're not going to comply. We're going to continue to do these things. And they have strategically lined up these bills purposely every year to make sure that they are attacking us from all ways, to make sure that now they can pass bills like this that say, hey, guess what? If you don't do what we want you to do, we can shut you down. We can close your businesses. We can make sure that your employees don't have food on their tables, etc. And when we're talking about weaponizing legislature, I have personally seen, and I would love your input on this, is how they attack Sheriff Roybal down at the Capitol every time there is a law about gun control, because they always bring up Club Q. And this is a national platform, and I want to make sure that we make sure to protect this information, because indeed I have witnessed the left come after him and say he's responsible for Club Q. And just set the record straight, if you will, and let people know exactly what happened with Club Q, that those guns were indeed acquired illegally.
Absolutely. Every time we go up to testify, you're exactly right. You know, that somebody will mention, somebody on the Senate or the House, well, what about Club Q? That happened in Colorado Springs. That particular individual lived in unincorporated El Paso County, and we had some evidence of a crime. My tactical team executed a warrant on this person's residence.
We'll ask him.
We obtained legally through a warrant the firearms that this person had, some bomb building materials this person had, and placed it in our evidence. Now, through illegal means, this same person obtained firearms, and I'll emphasize, and I said this in my testimony, through legal means, obtained illegal firearms to commit those murders at Club Q. Right. So, through legal means, obtained illegal firearms, committed illegal act of murder. Is there a theme here? Yeah. Illegal. That person did not use a legally obtained firearm to commit that act of violence. So that goes completely against their argument that if they outlaw firearms, there'll be no more violence. No. That brings you to another point that I want to make. These legislatures are using tragedies, whether they're around the country or in our own state, to disarm our law-abiding citizens. They're using these tragedies. Okay. They believe their misguided thoughts of thinking if we eliminate firearms, there'll be no more mass killings. I don't say mass shootings. I say mass killings, because we've come across mass killings before where people drive vehicles in the crowd, or they stab, or they blow up buildings. Yep. We've seen it. Are we taking away driver's licenses? No. Misguided. We take away the firearms, or no more mass killings. They are absolutely wrong, because the one thing they cannot take away, which is the one thing that we need to take away to prevent it, is the desire for some people to cause harm to others. That's what causes mass killings, is individuals' desire to hurt other people. That is a mental health issue. It is not a firearm issue. And these legislatures are misguided in believing that attacking law-abiding citizens. I carry a firearm every day, but you know what I don't have? I don't have the desire to harm other people. I protect people. So those people, if they don't have access legally to firearms, still, just like Club Q, continue to have the desire to harm others. They will obtain the means illegally to carry out their act of violence. And in this case, in Club Q, it was firearms, that person's weapon of choice or means of choice to commit his desire to harm others. And taking away firearms and making them illegal did not take away that person's desire to harm others. It's a mental health issue.
100%.
One of the things that I wanted to do is ask, I know we have a lot of people in the chat that are very curious on, what do you anticipate the cost for this COID card to be? Yeah. You know, because right now we have no clue how egregious these fees are going to be. I mean, it literally is a poll tax on a civil right, but that's a lot of the people in the chats and everywhere asking, like, how are you going to find the cost of this? And do you have an anticipation of what that cost is, Sheriff?
Right, because it's a discretionary measure on how much the trainer charges, whether it's the 1-day course or the 2-day course. It's how much is the state going to charge you to be put into a database and issue you your card, and then it's up to the sheriff's department as well, based off of the requirement of FTE and manpower to make this happen with the fingerprinting and the investigation. So there's so many different financial hoops that we're having to jump for as well. All you can really answer is, like, from a sheriff's department standpoint in El Paso County, what is the expected cost for the investigation and fingerprinting?
So we haven't determined the exact cost. I am a rough guess. If people want numbers, it's maybe going to be similar to a CHP, but I don't know if it's going to be cost that is passed on to the agency that's going to run fingerprints for me. I have to recoup that cost. I can tell you this: it'll be the absolute minimum I can charge to recoup some salaries from additional people that I must hire. Because it's not in my budget. It's unfortunate that the state is forcing me to do this, but any available monies that I have, I try to train my hire personnel to keep the community safe, train them, equip them with the latest equipment to keep our community safe. And it's just not in my budget currently to pay for additional personnel for these permits to take a class. So I will have to pass on some of that cost. Equipment costs, I don't believe I'll have to do that, because once I purchase a fingerprint reader, I have it with me. It's going to last for several years. But I do anticipate having to cover some personnel costs that I just don't have yet, but probably similar to a CHP, which is what we do. We don't make any money on it. The money that we generate pays the state for running the background, the fingerprints for us, right? Because the state charged us. And I can tell you this, it doesn't even pay for all the personnel that I have in CHP. So I wouldn't anticipate even recouping all of the monies for personnel, but I have to at least recoup the cost that the state or the feds will charge me to running some backgrounds. I will put that out once we figure out exactly how much that will cost us to recoup that for, not all the citizens of my county like firearms. So I can't pass that on totally.
You're bringing up a great point here, where the fiscal note they attached to 03 was asinine, because they didn't actually do a business survey of how many people are truly going to go after their Colorado identification card, and let's say relation to how many people go to get their conceal and carry license. And they didn't do an impact study on what it's going to be doing to the counties around the state that all of a sudden have this massive influx of people saying, hey, I want to exercise my constitutional right and be able to purchase something. What is this impact going to be on the sheriff's department? Like, for you, for example, you'll understand this. With this 1314 bill, they gave it a $0 fiscal note for creating an armed law enforcement department under the Department of Revenue to target FFLs. But they're saying they're going to have to be post-board certified. They're going to be armed. They're going to have a location to store their firearms. They're going to have vehicles. They're going to have recurring training, ammunition. How can that carry a $0 fiscal note? Our legislation up in Denver is, keep it PG. They are lying to us, or lying to themselves, sir.
And I know that the sheriff had some concerns also with SB 25003 about list keeping. Like, this is literally creating registries of firearms ownerships, which is obviously, we all know, registration leads to confiscation, which leads to genocide. And these are things that we're actively concerned about. We're running out of time here because a shout out to the sheriff. We hit him up very, very abruptly and said, hey, we really want to talk to you about some things because we're getting a lot of concerns from the people. And they squeezed us in on a moment's notice to get the sheriff on the show. And we have to have a hard stop for the sheriff here at 4:30. But, I would love to invite you back. We can tackle some other topics and some other things that I know people want to discuss. And just to say thank you, first of all, for taking the time to come onto the show. We really appreciate it. And we want to make sure that people do stay armed. We want to make sure people do stay educated. We want to say thank you to our sponsors. We want to say thank you to Ex America News. Thank you to Big Timber.
Thank you for
we're being asked to stay on a little bit longer, Sheriff. I know that you need to go here shortly. We're going to probably continue the show for about a half an hour if we can. But before you go, we have a couple things we want to ask you. First of all, what is your favorite carry gun? What is your holy grail firearm? And give us a quote that you want to give the people to, refer to you by.
Well, my duty weapon, which I carry, I'm so familiar with it. It was a, Glock. We went to it, 19. I grew up on 40 Smith & Wesson, which I still like. I think that's the best round. I love 40 Smith & Wesson. But when I was able to purchase my very first firearm, saved money. I'm 21. I bought a Ruger 45 ACP. So that's the one I bought. Of course, I have a Ruger Blackhawk, which was my dad's. He would take hunting, and he gave that to me. So that's just near and dear to my heart. My dad had polio, so he struggled with mobility. So for him to be up in the mountains, he had crutches and then a wheelchair. But I still see that old leather holster with the Blackhawk in there. So that's very sentimental to me. And this is the quote. My favorite quote goes in line with this is living well is the best revenge. And that right there,
indeed,
it focuses on you. You live your best life. People are going to come at you. Pay no mind to them. You focus on you. And if I got one last word to the viewers out there, do not let them win. Continue to jump through every hoop they ask. Pay the stupid tax and pay the stupid fees that they charge us that are ridiculous, that they continue to pass on to discourage us, to disarm ourselves. We are not going to let the government here in Colorado or anywhere disarm us. We will continue to fight. I will fight for you. Come to El Paso County, get your permit to take that stupid ass ridiculous class and continue to buy your firearms and absolutely continue to get your concealed carry permits, despite what they're trying to do to us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you. You have a standing invite anytime you want to come back on the show and address any topics. We would love to have you. So thank you so much.
Sir, and just before we get off, I'm going to be hosting the Big Timber Lodge barbecue, and we would love to have you as a special guest. It's going to be professionally catered. You can tell us whatever your type of favorite barbecue food is, and we will make sure to have it there for you. And if you would like to say some of your words at the barbecue, we would love that as well. So, sir, thank you for coming on the show today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. This is very important. Thank you for what you're doing and the work you're doing and the message you're getting out to the viewers. I appreciate you and I applaud you for that and commend you. Thank you so much.
We're working hard on it, man.
I appreciate it.
Take care,
See you in Denver.
Oh, yeah. See you at the Capitol, my
see you at the Capitol building. Absolutely.
All right. Talk soon. I think Big Timber and I are going to stay on for a little bit to wrap it up, but peace and blessings to you, sir. Maybe travel safe.
All right. Okay.
Awesome.
I don't need to have the headset on to talk to you right here, though, but I can just talk right into the microphone. So, yeah, that was surprising.
Nice.
I think that is a blessing in disguise about the COID card as far as the sheriff's department here in El Paso County can actually issue the COID card to people that don't live in this county. I don't think that's something that the old bureaucrats up in Denver thought about, because that creates a nice ability for people that live in Denver to actually still be able to exercise their Second Amendment. What do you think?
I think that's great, and I also think that you should procure the proper instructors, and if you want to go to a different county to get that education so you can find the right educator in the right county, go do it, shop it. There's a lot of really, really bad instructors out there. There's a lot of really bad posers in this industry that don't train, that they're really not worth their weight in gold. There's a problem right now in this industry of mass-produced instructors. They call themselves firearms instructors, but they're not actually training. They don't embrace the suck. They don't work hard to be better at it. And that goes for a lot of people in this profession. There's a lot of bad gun shops. There's a lot of people that aren't fighting back, that aren't getting involved, that aren't uniting. And it's really nice to see that we have good guys still out there that are willing to put in the fight. I mean, we have this misconception in this industry that, oh, don't do this, don't do that. You guys are bootlicking and, law enforcement's awful. Listen, I grew up in the hood. We don't talk to cops. I still tell my students we don't talk to cops. Invoke your Fifth Amendment right. Never say anything, never admit guilt. At the same time, you have to be very strategic about who you're aligned with. And when we have to put people in law enforcement, we're not going to get rid of law enforcement anytime soon.
Right.
So the whole point is, if we're working to get the proper people elected in positions of power and support, we need to have elected officials that reflect the voices of the people and are willing to go to bat for it. And the sad part is, you can't please everybody. You know, that's one thing that I've learned very quickly is when you have positions of power and when you're in positions of influence, you're always going to have those people, you know, the fleas on the balls of the big dog, you know, that want to cause problems, that want to, you know, be obtuse and say, oh, this is infringement and this is an infringement. It'd be one thing if we have a lot of these sheriffs out here that are just doing what they're told, they're following in line, they're not representing the people. But, you know, we do our best as an entire community to be down there at the Capitol and represent for gun owners. We know when we go down that they're going to pass it anyway.
Right.
I'm sure a lot of these sheriffs that I see down there, people like Roybal, when they go down to the Capitol, they know that they're not going to listen to him. But the problem is that these government officials, they are not asking the experts for what they want to see happen for the best interest of public safety. They're not going to them and saying, hey, you know, what bills can we introduce that you want to collaborate with us on to ensure that we're putting public safety in effect here, that we're representing the voices of the people.
Right.
They don't do that. What they do is they say, hey, we don't want your support. We don't want to hear your voice because we're going to ignore what you have to say anyway. We just want you to shut up and do what you're told. And when we have people, you know, like Sheriff Roybal and the other sheriffs and stuff that we've had on the show that do push back and stand for the 2A, they create laws like this that say, well, you know what? We're just going to go around you and we're going to usurp your position so we can completely disregard your efforts and impose the gun control that we want to anyway.
Right. I think that what we're going to start seeing, we've already heard about at a national level from the NRA. They were talking about organizations like Everytown for Gun Safety, which is a Michael Bloomberg, gun lobbyist group out of D.C., is now spending his own billions of dollars to get activist attorney generals in place around the nation at the state level, which we're seeing. You know, Secretary of State Jenna Griswold is now throwing her hat into the ring to become the attorney general. Where I see this going next, and this should really get you active to stay involved at the local elections in your county, is they are going to go after the sheriff's positions.
Yeah.
Because when you have pro 2A sheriffs like Sheriff Roybal, who was just on, talking about they're going to make it as convenient as possible for you to still be able to exercise your Second Amendment right, that is going to make the anti-gun liberal progressives in Denver's blood boil. It is going to make them seethe with anger that we actually have law enforcement agencies here in the state of Colorado that want you to exercise your 2A rights. So make sure you're not just getting involved with elections by voting at a national level or even at a state level, but get involved at the local level, because I guarantee, I saw it when I lived in California when I was stationed there, they went after pro 2A sheriffs. They did not want any county in California to be pro 2A. And if you were, they made it hell for you. And I guarantee, because we are California 2.0 right now, and until we can flip this state back to being purplish red or ruby red, we are going to see as much opposition coming from the ivory towers of Denver to
absolutely
push this social agenda down
They hate
on
us.
us.
They hate us all equally.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that's why we created the Second Syndicate, is we were seeing such stale movement when it comes to the Second Amendment in Colorado. And, you know, everybody wants to complain and everybody wants to blame and everybody wants to, you know, do this when they need to start doing this, and they need to start taking ownership for their lack of involvement. If you don't like the laws, are you registered to vote? Do you know who your legislators are? Are you reaching out to that? Do you even know what the laws are? Are you showing up to testify? And, you know, we know that it's not enough.
Right.
But it's a start.
Right.
I
wouldn't be surprised too, because I did some research before I came on the show. There are states in the United States, there are places around the nation where if a sheriff goes against a direct order, or if the governor feels that sheriff is not enforcing the rule of law to the governor's liking, they can remove that sheriff from office. In Colorado, they can't do that because they consider the sheriff to be an elected law enforcement official in your county. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if we don't start to see some of the legislation up in Denver go after the sheriff's ability to retain power, even if it goes against what the governor or the bureaucrats want them to do.
Well, that's what they're doing with 1314.
Well, that's a great point right there.
That's what they're doing right now.
Right.
Is they're saying, hey, we're going to be as quiet as it's kept. They're in the Capitol right now on the Senate floor talking about SB 25, or is it House Bill?
I think it's House Bill, yeah.
25, 1314, where they want to basically go around the sheriffs to take away their law enforcement capabilities and take away their power. And that's why you, the people, need to get involved in local government. You need to look to see, how many incumbents did we have that were running unopposed? And they just were able to walk into those Democratic positions in the seats in these counties because nobody even ran against them.
Right.
Chances are, if you can put two sentences together and you could, walk and chew gum at the same time, you could probably beat these horrific legislators that are holding office. Chad Clifford.
Yeah.
These people that are in office that could give a damn about your rights because they're already bought and paid for. They don't listen to what we have to say. They behave the way they do because they know that they're lining their pockets with Bloomberg money, with Moms Demand Action money. They're bought and paid for politicians. And we need real people with real experience and real voices that are actually involved in the communities that they're fighting for to get into office and take back Colorado, because the pendulum does swing the other way too. If they can go this far left, it can go that far right. Just with just for intention. If you want to get out there and you want to do something, do it. I'm a nobody.
Yeah.
You're a regular old guy.
I'm just a pissed off Coloradan.
Right? And look what we're doing. Look how much momentum we've had. Our voices are uniting. We're collaborating. That's one thing that I love about what we're doing in Colorado right now. We do have the one-off people that, they piss in the sandbox and then piss off that they say, oh, well, no one wants to play with me in the sandbox in two-way. Well, because you piss in the sandbox and then you ruin it for everybody and you don't play nicely with everybody. We want to play nicely with everybody. We want to welcome people into this movement. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care what you do. If you want to dress up as a dog or a furry or whatever, fine. Do you want to tote gats? Come on down. Right. Come on down. Come join us. Get involved in this movement because guns truly are the gateway drug to freedom. And once people realize that they have the ability to say no and they have the ability to resist and they have the training and the camaraderie that comes with being a gun owner, it changes a lot of people's perspectives and minds politically.
Right. Absolutely. And there's a couple of things I want to touch on with that, with information that I've learned since I've gotten into this 2A political arena here in Colorado. And I was very surprised to find out that a lot of the politicians in Colorado that are in elected roles actually weren't elected. They are appointed by the Democrats, because what it is when a politician is coming towards the end of their career and they decide, hey, I don't want to run in this next election. Instead of it letting being an honest election, what they do is they have that person remove themselves from their position of power, and then they appoint someone. We just saw that in the Senate here in Colorado this year, where during the whole Senate hearings on SB 03, they were down a Democrat senator, because they removed themselves from their position because they had gotten into a little bit of trouble with the state. And instead of allowing that person to go up in next year against an election and which they would have lost, they had them step down, and then they appointed somebody. Yeah. And I think, what is it, like almost 25% of the Democrats that are in elected positions in Colorado are actually appointed versus elected.
And we had that last year with the two people that proposed the assault weapons
absolutely
ban for the second year.
What is it, Meg Froelich? She was appointed as well, and she was one of the House sponsors for SB 25003.
And she's a notorious gun grabber on other bills as well. I think she's involved on the 1314 bill.
Yeah, absolutely. But I did get a little bit of good news from our friend Melissa Flanell over at Dragon Man's.
We love
you, Melissa. You're awesome. She told me she did some investigative research in the last election last year in Denver. It only had a 58% turnout. Now, on the flip side of that, in El Paso County, we just had the city or the county commissioner vote a couple weeks back. We only had a 28% turnout here. So what that means is that both sides, red and blue, aren't getting up and getting active in politics. Now, by getting involved in politics, it means that we not only need you to vote, but we also need you, if you think you would be a good representative, a good voice for the community, reach out to us. We've got people that can help build a campaign for you and actually get you into a position where we potentially can run you for a seat. And as you mentioned, there were several seats that were uncontested that the Democrats, they literally could have had a stick figure running and they won it.
Yeah.
Because there was no opposition running against them. So we've got to figure that out.
They literally put these people in place to walk into these seats, and then they literally trample on your freedoms, and they could give a damn. Like, for example, the Senate, I'm looking right now, you were talking about Meg Froelich. She's also one of the prime sponsors for state agency procurement and disposal of certain items, which is a firearms bill, SB 25-158. And guess who her buddies on that bill are, too? Big old Senator Julie Gonzalez and Tom Sullivan. So it's like these people are in cahoots to make sure that they are going to destroy every constitutional right that you have. And they're doing it brazenly, they're doing it obnoxiously, and they're doing it under the guise of protection. And if these things really were about protection, don't you think that they would want to enable protectors to be able to protect? No, they want you disarmed. They want you foolish. They want you, indoctrinated with poisoned food. They want you genderless because they don't want you having any ideology of knowing who you are and knowledge of self, or have any representation of religion or faith in your life. They want you malnourished and addicted to TV.
Yeah.
And, I'm sorry, I don't care really what this sounds like, but when I see a lot of these senators and House representatives show up, how frivolous they're dressed, how crappy they look, how unkempt they are, how they can't even be bothered by the voices of the people that are literally taking time away from their families, losing income at their jobs, paying for parking, dealing with traffic, coming down there to speak against these unconstitutional infringements on their rights, and they're sitting there coloring. They're shopping on Amazon. They're watching YouTube. They're getting up and walking away. They are purposely insulting the people that they are here to represent. And at some point, we have to flip these seats. And when I'm saying be resistant in the fact that you continue to speak out.
Yep.
Get involved in organizations like us, the Second Syndicate. You can donate to us. We have a Give, Send, Go. You can donate money. You can do super chats on our channel. You can sponsor, events that we need to have. You can donate. We want to bring more people together under the Second Amendment, and that's the whole point of creating a syndicate of educators, of trainers, of businesses, all of these people that are working together to protect the two ways. So please remember that we are working on it, but we need you. And one thing I noticed when I went to a lot of these galas is that conservatives, they don't spend money. The Democrats, they're blue no matter who. They throw money at everything. They don't care. They're going to be impartial, and they're going to support their party. Democrats, they're winning because they spend money and they support. The Republicans don't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Republicans, we're hardworking people that pay taxes, and we're not usually utilizing loopholes to stay wealthy or affluent. And so therefore, a penny saved is a penny earned, right? Another thing that I want to talk to the folks about, too, if you're unaware, we've got a couple of bills coming down the pipeline here in Colorado. One that directly pertains to firearms, and another one that directly pertains to your ability to be a parent that you should be made aware of. And one of those bills is the it's the anti-gun children indoctrination bill. I forget the number of it. I talked about it this morning on an earlier podcast, which is essentially, if it passes into law, is going to force schools to indoctrinate your kids.
Oh yeah, against guns.
Against guns, and how to actually report their parents.
Yep.
For owning firearms.
So that is House Bill 25-1250.
That's it.
It was in public hearing yesterday, and we're waiting to see when it is going to be open for public outcry. But you need to start making noise about this. You need to be reaching out to your news stations and saying, hey, why isn't this getting the attention that this deserves? Hey, reach out to the feds. And right now, so we have some things that we want to announce that we can't really speak about. We want you to stay tuned. Follow Big Timber, follow the Second Syndicate. Shout out to Alex the Truck for the super chat. We appreciate you. Thank you for supporting. But right now, we are waiting to figure out who the Attorney General, the United States Attorney in Colorado, is going to be. when it comes to Colorado, like we said, is going to be appointed by Trump. And once that happens, I never thought literally that I would be saying, "Oh my God, I'm so excited for the feds to come Colorado." I never thought I'd hear those words come out of my mouth, but I'm sure that they will be initiating lawsuits against ICE, that they're going to initiate, lawsuits against the 2A infringements, that they're going to pull access to federal funds and grants that we'll cease.
Wow.
One of the biggest organizations here in Colorado that Colorado taxpayers spent $3 million on is the Office of Gun Violence Prevention.
Mm-hmm.
And the Office of Gun Violence Prevention coordinates a lot of research to prove that guns are directly correlated to self-harm and harm of others, which you know as well as I do. If you seek, you will find. So they are biasly creating these studies, and they're making recommendations to the Department of Veteran Affairs. They're making recommendations to the CDC. They're making recommendations to legislators to continue to create more anti-gun legislation. And this is going to take a long time.
Right.
We are going to have to fight this. SB 25003 can't even be sued upon in court until it becomes effective August 1st, 2026. I actually have a plaintiff that is an excellent plaintiff that is ready to fight back against that. I've actually been in discussions with the Second Amendment organization, Second Amendment Foundation, and Firearms Policy Coalition. We have things that we're working on, but we have to be able to make sure that we can execute these with extreme proficiency, and we need money.
Yeah.
Like, lawsuits cost a lot of money. People need to donate to these lawsuits. And what I'm going to tell you right now is research the companies that you think are 2A organizations and see what they're doing for you in Colorado.
True.
Are they putting their money where their mouth is?
Right.
I don't want to get dirty and start naming names. But there are some people out there that are taking your money that have no presence in Colorado, that have had no victories in Colorado, that don't show up and testify against these bills that you are paying money to, and they have no representation or no voices. They don't even have state directors in Colorado. They are completely omniscient. Right. So if you want to support organizations, support the Second Syndicate. We are raising money now to start ballot initiatives, to start recall initiatives, to procure candidates for certain districts that we can flip some seats. If you have a skill set, if you don't have any money, call us, volunteer. Right. Do you have a skill set? Do you know how to build websites? Do you want to knock on doors? Do you want to make phone calls? What can you do? Because we're also working with the Colorado Federal Firearms Licensee Association to negotiate a lot of these parameters for these bills that are attacking gun shops as well. But there's a lot of people that are being affected by this in addition to gun shops, and that's why we're here, and that's why we're fighting. And this is why we have shows like this, is because we have to have these conversations. Right. And we have to work together. So shout out to you, Big T, for joining us, for sharing your love with us, because we all know this industry is very shadow banned. Yeah. So we help each other, and he shares his audience with us. We share our audience with him, because it is an each one teach one environment. We have to spread the news as well as act and talk about these things publicly and with our communities.
So I just want to end on a positive note. So there is a handful of positive things going on here. You have people and organizations like myself who's reached out to the Department of Justice about what's going on here in the state of Colorado. They've directed me towards a civil rights grievance, which we're looking to file as a class action lawsuit. But once again, that can't go in effect until after SB 25003 goes into effect, would be August of next year. However, we also have the state GOP reaching out to the Department of Justice and Trump administration saying, come look at what's going on in Colorado. Additionally, I have a picture of Montrose County official letter that they wrote to the President Trump. Montrose County was the county that came out about a month ago saying, we are going to be a 2A sanctuary county and not allow SB 25003 to be enforced in our county. And then in retaliation of that, we saw 1314 be introduced to the state legislation process to say, fine, if your sheriffs won't enforce this, and we'll create our own law enforcement that will come in and do it for them. Now, they said, all right, I'll be your Huckleberry, and now they have directly written a letter to President Trump. In addition to that, I did get some good news. I covered it in a podcast this morning, that our Department of Justice, I swear to God, they're watching the Big Timber Lodge live streams. Listen to what I had to say almost 3 months ago, and they have cut off the funding federally to grants that go directly to gun control organizations around the nation, and that is a $13 billion industry for gun control lobbyist groups like the Brady Campaign, Every Town for Gun Safety.
The Department of Gun Control that
Yes.
we have here, the Office of Gun Violence Prevention.
Absolutely. And so things are happening. We got the 2A task force being formed. We got the Department of Justice, and that's a big one that I'm extremely happy to talk about. It's just they have cut off federal grants, which is our federal taxes.
Why am I wearing this when I could talk
Yeah,
to you?
I don't know. They have cut off our federal taxes from going to gun control lobbyist groups in D.C., like Every Town for Gun Safety, that utilizes that money to put
That
people.
wrote
that wrote SB
25003.
25003. That is written by Allison Shai out of Chicago, Illinois, who is a policy attorney for Every Town for Gun Safety. And they also used millions of dollars in our last election to get people like Tom Sullivan elected, so he would sponsor a bill that was written in Chicago as Colorado law. So I am hats off to the Department of Justice for finally cutting off that slush fund to these gun control, anti-constitutional lobbyist groups. So thank you for that, Donald Trump and Pam Bondi.
And here's the thing, guys, is, we're asking for the feds to come involved. There are petitions going out right now with the CSSA. I know RMGO is doing that too. There's a lot of organizations, the NRA, that are working towards putting a spotlight on Colorado and saying, hey, we need your help, come here. And there's a lot of misinformation out there. Like, one of the things, I know a lot of people are very anti-NRA. I've been looking into a lot of these organizations, like, hey, where's my money going? Why do we hate these organizations, etc.? And what I have found is that the NRA is footing the bill for a lot of these lawsuits that their name's not on. So a lot of these federal lawsuits that have been filed in the past couple of years, you know who's paying, who's writing those $1 million checks for that litigation? The NRA is. And I know a lot of people are very upset about the things that have happened in the past and the egregious, transgressions against the 2A. There's always going to be bad people everywhere you go. We have bad people in Colorado that say that they're 2A. We have bad people on the federal level that say they're 2A and they're not. We have posers. We have pretenders. It's your job as the American people to look into that, to use your voice to push back. It doesn't cost anything but your time. And your voice is very, very essential. If you feel that an organization is saying that they're pro-2A or they're doing something, look into them. The Office of Gun Violence Prevention here in Colorado, the University of Colorado, Anschutz Medical Campus, they have a lot of people over there, people by the name of Marion Betts, Emmy Betts. They have the Gun Shop Project. They have these other organizations that say that we're here to help. We're here to find solutions to people that want to self-harm with firearms and etc. But it seems to me that a lot of the studies that come out of there are definitely pro-gun control. So absolutely. Colorado is a huge advocate for funding with federal money research for gun control. So if you are out there and you are curious of how that money is being spent, look into it. Thank you, Jeff Benjamin, for your super chat and your donation. We really appreciate it. A round of applause to you, because you're helping us stay relevant. You're helping our algorithms too by donating and doing those super chats. But it literally is up to the people to take the time out and to get involved. If you don't know how to get started, reach out to us. You can hit us up at info@the2nd Syndicate, info@the2ndsyndicate.com, and say, hey, I have this skill set, or hey, I'm curious, or I want to help. If you want education, come to Spartan Defense. Come take one of our classes. I'm an instructor. We do female classes. We have another instructor who's here. We're already certified with the state to be able to conduct those classes. We're here to help. So support local gun shops that are here actually fighting for your rights. Support the CFFLA. Bring your attention and bring your support to us, because at least we're here doing something. We can't be alone, though. We can't be everywhere. We're exhausted. We're tired. We're beat up. We need allies, and we need everybody to come together. And that's why I appreciate you, Big T. Like, he had Melissa on the show. I love Melissa. You know what I mean? We collaborate with all these other organizations. We work with RMGO. We work with the CSSA. We work with Dragon Man. We work with all the main influencers that want to be involved. Because why? We need each other. We need to focus on being united, and we need to focus on moving with attention, because what they don't realize is that all they're doing is making us be more fierce. We're more pissed off. We're more communicative now, and we're getting stronger and faster. And our voices are coming out. People are starting to get involved. We are on a national platform right now. Both of us are. Shout out to Ex American News for having this, because we're expanding our reach. We are no longer bound by the shadow banning and the censorship on all these other, Democrat controlled organizations. We have a free platform where we can speak about these things. So feel free, go subscribe to Big Timber on X. What's your X handle?
It's at Nick Rogers BTL. So NICKROGERS BTL. That is going to be my X handle if you want to find my account. And I just want to point out too, the reason why we are an X America News, which is a internationally syndicated news network that is on radio, I think 15 different streaming services, and about to be on Roku TV. Woo! The reason why Spartan Defense or the Second Syndicate and the Big Timber Lodge is on there is because nationally, people are starting to look at Colorado and say, this is the canary in the coal mine for all of these social experiments that these liberal progressives are trying to force onto the rest of the nation. They aren't looking at just California anymore as being what's the, telltale sign of what to come. Now they're starting to really look at Colorado, and that's why they reached out to us, because they appreciate what we're doing and they want to see us bring the local news and truth of what's going on in Colorado to the national and international level, so that everybody can be made aware. And the more broadcasts, or the more that we can get this message broadcast out, the more that they can't stop the signal, and they can't stop the signal. Wolverines, I love you guys.
Wolverines, guys.
Wolverines!
We kick it hardcore over here. And we have some people talking about some things in the chat and organizations in the chat. We don't hate around here. There's a lot of people that maybe want to hate on us or, want to cause drama in the two-way. We don't have time for that, man. We don't have time for the infighting. If you guys want to be involved with that, don't bring it here, because we're about making progress. We can't be eating our own. We have to focus on making change, and we have to focus on being relentless.
True.
Be relentless when it comes to making sure that they can't fuck with us, guys. Like, they can't fuck with us. If you're focused on being dedicated to the mission, keep on it.
Right.
Because I'm tired of it too. I'm tired.
Right.
What people don't see is what goes on behind the scenes here. We work late. Our staff works late. We dedicate our own time. We dedicate time away from our families and our friends so we can push back and we can fight against all of this stuff. But we need you to come on in and join us and join the fight with us in every way possible. Thank you to Alex the Truck. He donated $10 for that super chat.
Thanks, Alex. I know that guy.
You. I do want to send a couple shout outs. Shout out to our media team, man. Shout out to the guys that you're not seeing that are over there making sure that we can have the proper audio, that we are getting connected on all of our platforms. We are now on Rumble as well. You can find us over there. You should go follow us and subscribe to us on Rumble. Same thing with Big T.
Big Timber Lodge on Rumble.
We are the Second Syndicate on every platform. Please follow us and subscribe to us. Also go on YouTube and subscribe to us at the Second Syndicate on YouTube. That way we can start directing our traffic there, because of course we're always shadow banned. On any platform that you want, please go and support the Second Syndicate. You can support on X. Go follow my business partner and friend. He's goofy as hell. Teddy Collins, the Colorado Two-Way King on X. Follow us at Second Syndicate on X. Follow me, the Boomstick Babe. Follow me at the Boomstick Babe on IG, on Facebook. Keep bringing the love. Keep sending the super chats. We are going to get going here because we have been on for about an hour and a half, and we know people, it's Friday, man. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. We got some whiskey that we want to drink, some cigars we want to smoke, and some family we want to spend time with.
I want to go get tacos. You want to get tacos?
Let's
go get some tacos. Let's go get some tacos.
Only if we go to the taco place that I know, and I'll meet you there, because it's like original, authentic Mexicano, quesadilla tacos.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't want some of that fuzzy taco shit.
Yeah, and folks, and I just want you to know, with the Big Timber Lodge, I don't care if you're sharing my videos. I don't care what you do when it comes to my videos. Just share the message. That's the biggest thing here. There are a lot of organizations out there that rule the internet world that hate our message, but they can't stop the signal. When we spread it amongst ourselves and with our friends and with our loved ones and coworkers and just people that we meet and make them aware, they can't stop the signal, and that's how we're going to win this, Alicia.
Absolutely, my friend. Thank you so much. We're going to do that? We got the gangster shit now?
Damn.
We're thugged out. So Big Timber is going to be joining us a couple more times in the next month or so, because my co-host is going to be traveling. I'm also going to be traveling, so he will hopefully co-host with Teddy. I know I'm way cooler, but you can support Teddy and Timber together. That sounds kind of cute. I hope they have a video of them holding hands and skipping with some guns in their hands maybe later. But If there's anything that we can tell you right now, if there's
That's
ever
really
a
gay.
quote that we can leave you with, it is that the only way that the enemy triumphs is when good men do nothing.
Absolutely.
Doing nothing is a choice. Not speaking out is still doing something. So if you don't contribute and you don't make a move, if you don't do something about what you believe in, you're helping support the other side. You're helping support the narrative that they can get away with whatever they want and trample on our rights. And it takes us a long time to get these rights back, if we can. If we can. So stop them in their tracks now. Hit up your senators right now. Bombard them right now, especially regarding 1314 that is on the Senate floor. Hit them up, bombard their email, give them phone calls, reach out to them. If you do not know how to find who your legislators are, you can go to taprack.app and go to Armed Colorado, or you can go to our link tree in our bio, taprack.app/Armed Colorado. You can find all the links to all the bills there, everything you need to find your legislators. You can email them. You can find all of our socials there. And thank you guys. Thank you so much. What's the taco spot? I can try it later. I like to go to this place. It's called Tacos del Amigo. And it is a bomb. Let me tell you, like puro Mexicanos, you know, they speak Spanish. So
Nice.
It's the good stuff. Like if you go to a Mexican restaurant and there's not other Mexicanos in there and it's all white people, you know, not saying I don't like some white people shit. They make good margaritas. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I'm an equal opportunity, you know, eater. But, you know, sometimes I want the OG stuff. I mean, I'm obviously inverted coconut. I'm brown. I just don't look it. But, you know, I was raised on beans and rice and tacos and shit. So I always want the good stuff. And I always want to make sure when I go places they have, if they're not serving horchata that they make daily, it's not probably the best place for Mexican food. Just saying. But without further ado, any closing statements from you, my friend?
I aim to misbehave, and as always, Colorado, let's get to work.
Subscribe to X America News on X platform. Thank you, guys.